Israel's government collapses. I-24 News visits Nesva Cafe. Radical militants in Gaza forbid the celebration of Christmas. And Israel bombs Syria. Hi, I'm Ron Cantor, and this is your Israel Connection. Things can change really quickly here in the Middle East. 1 minute you're eating your delicious shawarma, and the next minute the government collapses. What? New elections? So the other day I was at my computer working, doing what I do, and I heard that our government here in Israel collapsed. Now I know for the American mindset, most of our listeners or watchers, viewers are in America. You elect a president and he's pretty much going to stay there 4 years, sometimes 8 years, but he's going to fill his term. There's rare instances where they don't. But for the most part, they fulfill their term. In Israel, it's not in any parliamentary system. It's very different. At any moment, at any time, there can be a no vote confidence. In our case, our parliament, our Knesset, they decided themselves to collapse. Now, why did they do that? And what are the implications? Well, the implications is that we still have a government. Don't worry, we're okay. But on April 9th, there will be new elections. It all came down to this one thing. Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition was razor thin, down to 61 seats out of 120. He could not afford to lose even one more member. And they were trying to get this bill passed. Now, this bill is a very important bill. It's about ultra-Orthodox Jews serving in the army. Now, when Israel became a nation, a law was passed that a certain amount of scholars would be exempt from army service so they could focus on studying the Bible, reading the Torah, writing stuff, praying. And somehow that morphed into any Orthodox Jew or ultra-Orthodox Jew that did not want to serve in the army. And finally, our High Court, our Supreme Court, they struck that down. I'm not sure how long ago, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. And they said that is not what the law intended. And the High Court said to our lawmakers, come up with a brand new law that will have a quota of how many can actually be exempt, and the rest will have to serve in the army. Now, the ultra-Orthodox community is going crazy over this because they see that their job is they don't necessarily even believe in the state of Israel, and they don't want to serve in the army, and they don't believe in the state, but they will take money from the state because you got to survive if you're not going to work. And for the most part, they don't work. They live on charity and entitlements that come out of my pocket as a tax-paying Israeli citizen. And so most of us Israelis, we don't think that's fair. The Supreme Court certainly didn't think it was fair. And they told the lawmakers, come up with a law that is fair and right. And of course, they're going crazy. They don't want any law. They don't want to serve in our army. You know, my daughters were in the army and, their sons can serve in the army as well. It's only about 5% of the nation. It's not a huge percentage, but it's not right. It's not fair. And we thought we had a bill passed. But at the last minute, Yair Lapid, who is part of the Yesh Atid party, he said that he couldn't support the bill because he accused the Netanyahu government of funneling money under the table to these ultra-Orthodox groups in order to get them to just relax and it's going to be okay, don't worry about it. And Lapid said, you know what, that's not right. We're not going to pay anybody off. We're not going to bribe anybody. We're going to pass an honest law. And that pretty much brought down the government. So on April 9th, there will be new elections. Who's going to win? Well, probably Benjamin Netanyahu. Have you heard about him? He's now the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel. Now, how do most Israelis feel about him? I can't really say because it's a huge spectrum, but let me say for the most part, he's kept us safe. He's done a very good job of protecting our borders, of funding the military and projects and technology to protect us. Domestically, it's a little bit of a different story. Just a few weeks ago, there were taxes being raised on food in order, I don't even know why they did it, but they did it and it sparked an outrage all over the country. Like France, they're wearing the yellow vest and they're protesting and there are monopolies over our food industries, over many industries in Israel. I could tell you the whole history, but maybe we'll do it another time. But these monopolies, just a few people have control over these industries, and they can control the prices. And that's not right. That's not fair. It's illegal. And yet the government has not done enough to bring them down. So people are frustrated domestically, but they are happy with the fact that Israel is the strongest nation in the Middle East, that we can protect ourselves. And so you're weighing those two things. So who's going to win? Probably Benjamin Netanyahu. That could all change if he is indicted. Now, I know many of you love yourselves some Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's great. You know, in many ways, he's been a phenomenal prime minister, but sadly, our government, like many other governments, there's corruption, and he has been accused. He's not guilty. We have due process here in Israel, but he has been accused, and the police have recommended that he be indicted on corruption and bribery charges. The Attorney General was about to make a decision on that, probably in January, when suddenly all this happened. Now, skeptics have said that the only reason that Bibi is calling for new elections is to delay the possible indictment. Of course, he would deny that. He would say that he needs a viable ruling coalition. 61 is not enough ministers. So we'll find out what happens in April. Now, before we go on, I bet you're wondering, how do your politics even work in Israel? When I come back, I'm going to tell you. Okay, friends, it is the end of the year, and it has been an awesome year. We birthed Nesfa Cafe just about 4 or 5 weeks ago. It is fun. It is awesome. We now have this great little Hebrew group, 25 people coming together every week, and we're looking to reach out. We worship in Hebrew. We share the good news in Hebrew. And Tiferet Yeshua, there's literally no place to sit. If I come late, I've got to search for a place to sit in my own congregation. It's a good reason why I shouldn't come late, but God is moving there. Pastor Gil is doing a phenomenal job. I want to encourage you to sow into this work with an end of the year donation. If you would go to standwithmmi.org and make a generous end of the year of donation, that would help us tremendously to go into 2019 with the same zeal, the same fire, friends. We want to see Kol Yisrael Yivasha, all Israel saved. That's what the Bible says. And you know what? We can't do it alone. We need partners like you who love Israel, who want to see revival here in Tel Aviv. So without saying anything else, end of the year help. Stand with us. Go to standwithmmi.org. Thank you so much. We love you. Now, back to the news. Okay, so here is how things work here in Israel. We have about 5,000 political parties. Not literally 5,000, but we got a bunch of political parties. It's not like the U.S. or even Great Britain where you have two main parties and they pretty much decide everything. Each government is actually made up of about 11, 12, 13 different parties. And then, so again, I'm speeding up. My brain's going faster than my mouth. Breathe. Okay. So here's what happens is that Israelis, they go to the polls, they vote, and you have to get your party. So I have let's call it the Ron Cantor party. And I get 15 people to be on my list. And we're a part of the Ron Cantor party. And we get 2% of the vote. Of all the vote, we don't get to be in the government. You've got to get at least 3.25% of the vote to get seats in the government. Every party, and again, that's about 11, 12, 13 parties, that gets at least 3.25% of the vote, they get seats in the Knesset. Now, there are 120 seats in the Knesset, and typically the winner has never gotten a majority. In other words, you never have one party that has more than 61 or more seats in the Knesset. Normally, the party who wins, and they really don't even win, it's the party who gets the largest amount of the vote. Recently, that has been the Likud party, and they end up getting anywhere between 27 and 35. At one point, I remember a party getting over 40. That's the maximum I've ever heard, 42, 43. In our last election, I think Likud got 30. So 30, that's only 25%. That's not enough for a ruling coalition. So what happens? The president of the country, his name is Reuven Rivlin. He's not the president like in America. It's a ceremonial position. It's a serious position, but it's not, it's one that the Knesset members vote on. It's a great honor. And what he does is Reuven Rivlin will look at everyone, he'll check out his iPad and he'll say, who won, who got the most, who didn't get the, and he'll say, who has the best chance of creating a coalition? Now, normally, 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be the group with the largest amount. So that would be the Likud party, Benjamin Netanyahu's party. But sometimes he might go to the second best group, not the second best, but the group with the second most amount of votes, because he'll say, even though you didn't win, everybody likes you. And you have the best chance to actually create a 61 plus coalition. So he goes to that person and he says, I'm going to now commission you as the president to go try and form a coalition. So now he's got about 3 weeks and he's got to go do horse trading. So he's going to go and meet with this party and that party, the head of this party and that party. And it often comes down to 1 or 2 small parties who have all the power. Because maybe I'm part of the Shas party. They only had 7 seats in the last election. In this coming, and they're ultra-Orthodox, no friend of Messianic Jews, by the way, and they control the interior ministry, which is not good for Messianic Jews. One of our dear friends was just kicked out of the country. They didn't give her citizenship, even though she's fully Jewish. So we're hoping that the Shas party will not have control of the interior ministry in the next government. But take them, for example, they're expected to get only 4 seats in the next election. That would be, I think that's the minimum you can get and still, but they might not get any seats. That would be awesome. So, at the end of this 21 days, you still need a few more seats. So Bibi goes to the head of the Shas party and they say, well, we want X amount of millions of shekels for these programs, that programs. Because as I said earlier, many of their men, they don't work. They don't have jobs. They sit around and read the Talmud and the Mishnah all day. And I'm not against that, but get a job as well. You know, he who doesn't work should not eat. That's what the Bible says. So they will blackmail the government in order to be a part of they'll say, we'll vote on anything you want us to vote for. We'll be with you till the end. Just give us our money. And that's how they end up forming a coalition. And that's why it rarely ends up going the full 4 years, because there's a falling out. Somebody gets offended. Somebody gets upset. Somebody says, I can't vote for that. And the whole thing collapses. So that's what's going to happen on April 9th. In fact, we're going to be in the middle of an Israel tour. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have elections, and somebody's going to be tasked with forming the next government. Something you can pray about. Our biggest concern as Israelis is obviously security. But obviously we also want to be able to make a living. People want to be able to find jobs, pay fair prices. So pray for our government. Pray against corruption. Pray for honesty, integrity. So last night was really cool. We were visited, Nesva Cafe, by I-24 News. I-24 News, you can find them online. They are an English-speaking Israeli news organization. And they contacted me a few weeks ago, and they said, we want to do a story on Messianic Judaism. Now, when people do that, I'm like, yeah, I don't believe you and I don't trust you, because we've been burned in the past where news organizations, they've actually sent in people to become fake believers and do an expose. So I was pretty tough on them, but I began to see that they actually saw that, you know, we're good people. We pay taxes. Our kids serve in the army. We love Israel. And they wanted to do a positive story. I did an interview with them in Jaffa on, I think it was earlier this week. And they basically let me talk for an hour and just tell every good thing about Messianic Judaism in Israel. I can't wait to see the post, or to see the, I don't even know if it's ketava or keta in Hebrew, the piece that they're going to do. It's going to be on news. We'll send it to you. But they were here last night filming our congregation. So pray that that goes to thousands of people all over the world and begins to show Jewish people that, hey, not only can you believe in Yeshua and be Jewish, but you should believe in Yeshua and be Jewish. Okay, so you guys know that Israel has exposed the fact that Hezbollah, their terrorist organization, in Lebanon's parliament. They actually have seats in the parliament, and they are a terrorist organization. They are fighting in Syria right now, killing innocent men, women, and children. They're horrible, horrible people. And we have found out that they've been building tunnels from Lebanon into Israel. I think we found 5 so far. So we went to the UN and we said, hey, UN, this is wrong. And the UN said, yeah, it is wrong. Even the EU has stood with us. Very rare occurrence, kind of like a blood moon. But they are. And so last week, the UN was supposed to vote to condemn Hezbollah for building terror tunnels. That's a no-brainer. That is a no-brainer if you're a human being. If you're a human being and your job is to protect human rights, you're part of the UN, and you're going to condemn a terrorist organization for building tunnels into a democracy in order to kill innocent men, women, and children. That's what we call a no-brainer. Except with the UN, it becomes a brainer. It really does, because it's dominated by what we call the Arab bloc, which is primarily the Muslim bloc. And even though it makes sense, common sense, that you would condemn a terrorist organization, anything that can be remotely seen as favoring Israel, there again. So they could not even agree to pass a bill condemning a terrorist organization building tunnels in Israel. But you know what they did do? They did rebuke, oh my gosh, here's what they did do. They did rebuke Israel for violating Lebanon's sovereignty. Well, listen, on behalf of Israel, I just want to say to the people of Lebanon, I'm not sorry. Here's the thought. Maybe you should rein in your terrorist. Hey, there's a great idea. You rein in your terrorist, get them out of your government, and I will work on this side to keep us from violating your sovereignty. But as long as you're letting these killers build tunnels into our neighborhoods, we're going to violate your sovereignty. Well, friends, they found Scrooge, and he's in Gaza, and he's a Muslim. There is a Muslim terrorist organization in Gaza that issued a warning to the Christians of Gaza, less than 1%, and they basically outlawed the celebration of Christmas. Now, it doesn't really matter what you think of Christmas. It's pagan, it's this. It's not the point. The point is that there are terrorists in Gaza that have threatened the less than 1% Christian population, that if you sing Christmas songs, if you have a Christmas tree, if you do any of these things, we will kill you. So there's your weekly update of what's happening in Gaza. And in our final news story this week, yesterday I woke up and I found out that our government, our military, we had bombed Syria. Now I want to be clear, when we bomb Syria, we don't just bomb Syria. We don't kill innocent men, women, and children. That's what Hezbollah does. That's what the Syrian government does. That's what the Russian Air Force does in Syria. Our attacks are pinpoint. We use smart bombs. And what we did is we targeted weapons depot. See, Iran is trying to get a foothold in Syria that they can then use against Israel. And we've said, no, wherever we find weapons coming in from Iran in Syria, we're going to blow them up. And we've been pretty good at that. Despite the fact that Syria has the most advanced Russian missile defense systems, we've been able to bypass all of them and hit our targets. We also bombed an airplane that was being loaded with leaders of Hezbollah on their way to Iran. And apparently that mission was successful as well. We have basically promised Iran and Syria and Hezbollah that we're not going to let Iran have a foothold in Syria. I don't ever get excited about people dying. I don't ever get excited about military conquest. But I got to be honest, I want to be safe here in Israel. And it's one of the reasons that we do have a safe country. Israel is one of the safest places to live in all the world. I love living here. It's awesome. And a big part of that is because the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, goes on the offensive in protecting us. So that is another week of news here in Israel. I want to encourage you to go to standwithmmi.org, make a generous end of the year donation. That'd be a real blessing to us. And I want to send you a free book. If you go to roncan.net/awake, I wrote a book called The Coming End Time Awakening, and it's coming. And you can get the free book. All you do is go there, put in your email address, first name. We will send you that book immediately. And I also want to say one more thing. In May 29th through June 8th, we're going to do another Israel tour. I am going to take you to some of the most amazing places. In fact, I taught about this place last night in Hebrew to our Nesveh Cafe. Nesveh Cafe congregation. I can't even tell you where this place is. I can't. I'm not being sensational, but there's a place I want to take you that I promise is going to blow your mind. Your mind's going to be so blown that you might have to go to somebody who unblows minds. I mean, it's going to be incredible, and I can't tell you where it is, and I can't tell you anything about it. I can just promise you that it's going to be amazing. If you're interested, go to livingstonesisrael.com. That's livingstonesisrael.com. We've only got a few places left. It's filling up. We only do one bus because we like to keep it intimate and just, we have so much fun on the bus, off the bus, eating. It's just going to be a great time. Come with us. Go to livingstonesisrael.com. And I will see you right here next week. We love you. We bless you from Tel Aviv. Shalom.